to discuss the elements of it extensively except on two things. No? Number one, the weighted average cost of capital will mean that Meralco will be able to increase the return on rate base from what the Supreme Court said is the legal 12% on return base to 15.2%, which will now include, among other things, an income tax provision of 30% in the formula of the weighted average cost of capital, and including planned investments and future acquisition of profits, of assets. The Supreme Court in its decision said that in this country we must consistently apply 12% return on rate base. The Supreme Court has never departed from that, and this was promulgated by the Supreme Court even after the end of after the EPIRA law. And number two, that only assets in place, not projected investments, not future acquisition of assets, not even work in progress can be included in the rate base, because the philosophy and rationale for that is this: customers should not be charged directly or indirectly for assets as a rate base that are not there in place, that assets that are not yet serving the customers, and that it should not also include assets that are not even used in the distribution function of a utility. Now, question: is this wacky-wack principle already in place? Is that operative so that Meralco can now directly or indirectly pass on its own income taxes to customers in spite of the prohibition of the Supreme Court in an earlier case? What is the status of this performance-based rate based setting, which uses the weighted average cost of capital? Can I ask that first to ERC?
It was the ERC that decided to adopt an alternative form of rate-setting methodology, and that is the performance-based regulation methodology, in accordance with the provision in the PIRA itself that we can do that for so long as this is an internationally accepted rate-setting methodology. Second, as far as the question now, whether that is already in place, the WACC has already been adopted in the determination of the return that will be given to Meralco in the unbundling of rates application that it filed, and which was decided by the ERC in 2003. As far as the performance-based regulation, the rates are determined under the performance-based regulation for the first entrant distribution utilities that include Meralco. The rates determined here are not yet being implemented, sir.
From including in their operating expenses income tax?
Yes, sir. Considering that its unbundled rates were determined under the then return on rate-based methodology, we adhere to the Supreme Court ruling, and we did not include in the determination, in the computation of the revenue requirement, the corporate income tax of Meralco.
Are you included in the formulation by ERC, and also that future investments and acquisition of assets that are not in place are not also included?
Sir, in the performance rates regulation, which we follow for Transco and the privately distribution utilities, in the computation of the revenue requirement, we consider corporate income tax, and WACC is also considered in the determination of the other building block, which is the return on capital.
But that is not effective yet, is it correct?
Yes, sir. The rates determined under the PBR for the first entrance PUs are not yet being implemented, sir.
Okay, because I just want to put on record that if that formula is adopted, it will be in violation of the 12% return on rate base, that the Supreme Court said should be consistently applied in this jurisdiction because the net effect of that weighted average cost of capital based on the so-called performance-based rating is already going up to 15.2%, or 3.2% higher than what the Supreme Court consistently wishes to apply. Now, I do not want to proceed this any longer because we have a timetable of 2 o'clock. But at the next hearing, I would like to elaborate on this. But I just want to inform Meralco and ERC that if need be, and this relates to my last question, am I, as a congressman, become a real party in interest if I petition the ERC to review and reevaluate the so-called performance-based rate formula, or do we need a consumers group or whatever? I'm also a consumer anyway, so that we can really put this together, no, and correlate the Supreme Court principles with this new weighted average cost of capital formula.
We will welcome, sir, your participation in our hearings, and in fact, as well as any petition to be filed with regular courts, with the appellate courts, for the review of this adoption of the performance-based regulation.
When
so
is
we can
that
issue.
expected?
The rates initially determined under performance-based should have been implemented as early as July 2007, but the Commission has deferred the implementation of these rates.